welcome back to the Whatnauts Reactor Core number 144. We have our Yellowjackets Season 3 spoiler cast coming at you in just a sec here. We'll get to that in just a sec. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, are you ready to podcast for like 4 hours straight? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not going to hold you that long.
I'm realizing, like, I don't think I ate a large enough portion of dinner, but maybe you need to podcast hungry for this show.
Yeah.
If you're sated, you're not in the right mindset.
Or maybe it's safer to podcast when you are full. You know, you don't get tempted to eat anything else, right? You're not out there struggling, being like, Melissa's starting to look like a turkey leg, like in the cartoons, you know?
Trying to make you pick from a deck of cards online.
Right, yeah.
Point at one and I'll pull it for you.
Indeed. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing well. We had a surprise ice cream delivery at work today.
Ooh, that's awesome. Good day. Good way to start the week.
Good. Yeah, got to start with 6 pints of Jenny's ice cream. Nice. There's a pineapple upside down cake I'm going to crack into tomorrow.
Ooh,
we're both on a pineapple wavelength.
Yeah, I have my pineapple Fanta that I'm sipping on while I do this podcast here, which is a nice bright yellow. Your microphone also is kind of yellow. And speaking of yellow,
it's papaya.
It's papaya. Indeed. Yeah, let's get into some Yellowjackets here. We got our season 3 spoiler cast to talk about. Now, I guess right at the top, we have discussed the other 2 seasons here on the podcast as well. We have a spoiler cast for the first season, and then for season 2, we did it by like chunks of 2 or 3 episodes. So we really went deep with that one. If I had been more aware of my streaming services, we maybe could have done it that way. But we did not. I did not think I had my subscription up and running. So I kind of waited to binge it all until the last second. So we only have this one episode, but I have extensive notes.
Of course you do.
Yeah, because I took notes as I was watching. But I at least wanted to say that we might not go as in depth as we had for season 2. But also that's if you are watching this, we will kind of assume that you have already watched it. I have some like broad brushstrokes of like what happened in season 3 here that are spoiler free. But beyond that, we will assume that you have watched this. So there will be spoilers, plenty of them. So first of all, Melissa, what did you think of season 3? I want to know your general thoughts.
It finally gave me something I've been waiting the whole series for. And it didn't play out the way I thought it would play out. There are some big swings. There are some big surprises. Some of the characters start to crack in on the nature of what's happening back there in the woods in the 90s. But I wish there was just more of it. The characters who bring up something that I think was an important revelation never shared it with anybody else, and then both of them died. So I don't know if that's just a narrative dead end.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certainly some interesting choices being made in this season. So some good comedic moments from some of the supporting cast as well. Oddly enough, things I did not think I would ever see in this, namely a talking llama. But yeah, I had a really good time with this. I think this season ended in a really good place. I think previously we had discussed or had seen somewhere that I think the creators at one point had, I think, up to 5 seasons planned, and that's kind of what they were capping it at. I don't know if that is still holding true or not. I feel like they could wrap this up with one more season after
Yeah.
that, and I feel like that would be appropriate. I think we are getting closer to the end of this series, and I think especially with what happens in the finale of this, that is certainly true. Um, so I had a great time. I loved this season a lot. I feel like I also have less wild theories
Mm.
though. Like season 2, I really had some like, this is fascinating stuff if you read into this and the literary allusions and what kind of flower each person represents or what color they're wearing, right?
Mhm.
Like that
Deep dive on heliotrope. That was
exactly.
season 2.
Exactly. And I didn't feel like there was as much of that stuff in here. I'm sure there are theories out there. I did not scour Reddit to really look. There's also a big hole on YouTube for like breakdowns and analyses of season 3 here. There's not much. So I don't know if that's just because the show got too ridiculous for a lot of people or was too frustrating because of the mysteries. I'm not sure, but I loved it. I had a great time.
Mm.
So
I always do have a fun time.
yeah, yeah, indeed, we had some good moments. Well, let me do the like plot synopsis of where we are, what the status quo is, so to speak, for season 3 here. I will divide this into the younger and the older timeline. So the younger timeline picks up in the fall, sometime after their cabin has burned down at the end of
It's
season 2.
it's summer.
So it's like late
It
summer.
Yeah, I think it is like late summer. We have a couple episodes where it's bathed in a yellow sunshiny glow, and then we do hit winter by the end of the season.
So this is sometime after their cabin has burned down, and the girls have made new dwellings that are actually quite impressive.
Girls parentheses and Travis close parentheses.
Yes, he's an honorary girl. Uh, they've gone a little bit deeper into their cult-like behavior,
Mhm.
forming new alliances as different girls struggle for power, namely Shauna, who is encouraged and enabled by one of the, not really new, but the spotlight is certainly on her in this season, new character, Melissa. And over the course of the season, the girls discover new places of interest, have new visions, hold a criminal trial, and get that much closer to rescue. Or do they? In the older timeline, we pick up sometime after Lottie's cult has been disbanded and Nat's funeral is just around the corner. Shauna begins to feel that someone is stalking her again and maybe attempting to kill her after a handful of weird occurrences, like a cell phone being left behind in the women's bathroom that plays a song called Queen of Hearts,
Mhm.
as well as the brakes on her car stopping or stop working. The paranoia of these older women culminates in the death of another member of their group, and all signs point to the culprit being one of themselves. Um,
Mhm.
so that's kind of the broad strokes of what's happening here in season 3. So from this point on, we're gonna do our spoiler stuff. So I'm gonna hit our little spoiler button here, and then we can dive in. Okay, there you go. Melissa, I'll toss this to you. Where do you want
Mhm.
to start?
Let's start with other Melissa.
Oh, okay.
Nice and
Indeed.
easy segue there. Formerly known as Pink Hat Girl, she still wears a pink hat, but now she's prevalent enough for you to fully remember her name.
Yeah.
When she just kisses Shauna out of nowhere at the end of episode 2, I I knew this season was really going for something. That is what's so fun about this show to me, is that it's throwing everything at the wall. It's trying everything.
Yeah. Shauna really seems to be mad, be upset, just so over it with everyone. But Melissa, I still don't know if I really understand her motives exactly. I think she sees Shauna as a way to protect herself. Like she is like that she sees Shauna as strong, if not headstrong,
Yes.
right? And can hide behind that almost, but not in like a shy, sheepish way, as in like a puppeteering kind of way. And so she's almost helping but like not like she's not necessarily puppeteering to like manipulate things per se,
Hmm.
but is certainly encouraging Shauna to act out and become the leader of the
Yeah.
group.
I think Melissa is attracted to the tough girl Shauna has become and would like to see her be an even tougher girl. And like
Yeah.
maybe does like the protection that is offered by being the chosen companion of the queen.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't like with the signature backwards hat that she wears.
Mhm.
I like it's interesting because I feel like if I mean we know she then went on to marry another woman. So, again, spoilers for stuff that's happening later on in the season. But she still has that backward hat. I don't know if this is just like media and the tropes I've seen on TV, right? But that
Yeah.
always reads to me as like, oh, that is a more butch lesbian. But I don't think I would
Uh-huh.
describe Melissa as really butch all that much. Maybe here and there,
Maybe
but she's
maybe no
also
more
not the
than
like
anybody else. I think
right.
it's
She's
a
also not
jock thing.
the super feminine.
We do have to remember all of these girls are jocks, and backwards baseball hat is big jock energy, regardless of your other orientations in your life.
Sure. Yes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that is certainly an interesting, not twist, but just like, oh, okay, they're going for this thing. Here you go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I thought Melissa was an interesting new addition. Again, not new addition technically because she was in
Uh,
season two.
an interesting angle to add to a character who has never been in the forefront before. I think
Right.
her defining characteristic in seasons 1 and 2 was wearing a hat.
At least for us, it was like hat
Yes.
girl. Her,
Right, right.
I remember
And
her.
then I had forgotten the announcement that Hilary Swank was going to be in this season
Mm-hmm.
until like 2/3 of the way through the season when I Googled it just to see how long is this? Is this 9 episodes? Is it 10? When's
Yeah.
the finale going to air? So that I could get on a recording timeline with you. And some article said, we're still waiting to see what Hilary
Hilary
Swank
Swank
is
is up to.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they wouldn't cast a two-time Oscar winner if they weren't really going to do something with adult Melissa.
Yeah. And in that, I don't think the show was even trying to hide the fact that like, oh, all right, we are bringing Melissa into the spotlight. Something is going to happen with her, and then
Mhm,
if you
mhm.
think about it, right, like all
Right,
the
and
stuff
we
that's
know she
happening with
can't.
Shauna
Yeah,
is like, oh well, even if she's not behind the cell phone or the brakes and and stuff like that, this is going to culminate and lead to something with the character of Melissa.
right. And because she's blonde, we know she's not Pit Girl. So what else could her story be culminating to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The addition of adult Melissa unfortunately means, and it's not like it's a one for one. I don't think they were that mathematical about it behind the scenes, but we do lose adult Van, which is a real shame.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, Van passes away in this episode, gets stabbed, um, which is not the person I was talking about in my broad brushstrokes of the stuff. Right. We actually lose
We
two
yeah,
members.
right. We lose Lottie and we lose Van in the
Yeah.
current timeline.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
there's with being down 2 yellow jackets and gaining 1 yellow jacket. In the finale, there's that scene where Thaisa is sitting in a booth at a diner talking to somebody who's off camera. The camera's
right.
just all on her for a minute or two. She's talking about how, like, Shauna's gone over the edge. We can't let this happen anymore. I'm remembering things from the past, from the woods. I can't let history repeat itself. And I kept expecting the camera to flip around and she's
And there's no
talking to
one
a
there.
really unexpected character. She's talking to herself,
Right.
the
Yeah.
2 sides of Thaisa, which vaguely seem to be united, but it's not exactly clear. She's talking to an unexpected character, or maybe there's another adult version of a character who we have not yet learned has survived because they've never there's a number of characters who they've never definitively said if they live or they die, like Aquila, for instance.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the scene, it just cuts over and it's Misty. And I'm like, that's not a surprise. Why did you shoot it that way?
Yeah. I mean, I think it really is to kind of play on Ty and her evil half,
Mhm,
right? Dark Ty, evil Ty.
mhm,
Um, because that is what's been happening with her throughout the season. The adult
mm.
version of Ty is and like halfway through we start to question which one are we seeing here, because we do get this idea of, oh, evil Ty has been out for a while and we didn't know. She's been acting like regular Ty, which is an interesting thing here, because usually when we've seen her, I she is more kind of like spirit possessed body, kind of like her voice is not the same, her actions, her motions are not the same, right?
Mhm,
So to have evil Ty like master what she looks like and sounds like and the way she moves is scarier
mhm, mhm.
now. But yeah, I like the way the reveal of Melissa still being
Yeah.
alive, but also it being a surprise to the older women too, because they
Mhm.
thought she had died, not on in the wilderness, but had committed suicide after
Mm.
they had gotten like out, and they were all like, we went to your funeral, like all of that. And
Yeah,
she was just like,
she
I left a note and they just assumed I was dead. That was
right,
it.
she's like,
That's how I faked it.
I yeah, that she wanted so badly to get away from her identity and start somewhere new, start somewhere fresh. She goes to this woman to try and make amends for a wrongdoing in the woods and sincerely falls in love with her, and they get married and they have a very cute house
Mhm.
and a cute little kid. And the tragedy is that she has been away from this for like 20 years. She got out, she made a clean break, she started fresh. And then after being around Shauna for 2 hours, she is back to
Yeah.
being murderous again. Like she goes downhill so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Cause I mean, she's kind of at the point where she's screwed no matter what. There is no return
Mhm.
for her
Mhm.
because her house is a wreck. There's blood stains all over the wall. Things are broken, right? All of that's like she can't really explain that without the police coming in and investigating, and who knows that what that would lead to of like, oh, this is not your real name. What is your real name here? Oh,
Mhm.
um so she's just kind of like, well, I'm back, I guess,
Yeah,
right? Like, here I am.
right.
Um,
I am once again Melissa, Melissa of the woods and the blood.
yeah. Which I liked that a lot. That she is now another member of the team of these older women that's just kind of out there, but is also not really a part of the group. Um,
Yes, she's
which is
kind of a wild card, which we haven't had yet.
or at least we had been like theorizing earlier on in the show of like, what if
Yeah.
there's another group of that, like at odds with each other, uh stuff like
Well,
that, and we
yeah.
hadn't really seen that.
Yeah, we had not seen adult cliques or tribes the way that the Woods had. They are all sort of at odds, and there's characters who like Shauna and Ty have kind of vowed to have each other's back, but they're not friends. Like they don't really spend
Right.
time. They have an alliance more than they have a friendship or a social
Yeah.
relationship.
Like an understanding of like, hey, we were in this traumatic thing. We can't really talk about it. So I got your back if you got mine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good
Also
stuff with that.
in the current timeline,
Mm-hmm.
there's the mystery of who killed Lottie, and if Lottie was killed at all. She's fallen down some stairs, and the question is, did she just fall? Did she throw herself down there on purpose, or did somebody push her? And the show goes back and forth among those. And if somebody pushed her, who was it?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple different suspects, and it winds up being Callie by accident. Sort of like they had a confrontation. She's like, get away from me, and like doesn't realize, oh,
How
I pushed
hard
her
she
too
pushed
hard.
her.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize the stairs were right there.
Yeah. That was an
I'm happy.
interesting reveal, that it was Callie
Yeah.
that killed her.
I'm happy we're getting so much more with Callie because she is the only modern youth that we have.
Yeah.
She's kind of in a boat by herself. She's a very singular character. And I like that they're really making something out of her and not having her just be Shauna's angsty teenage daughter who's like, why does my mom not love me? Why isn't she telling me the truth? The fact that she has the same darkness in her that Shauna has magnified uh, is interesting because before this season, I don't know if I really would have said that about Callie. Like she's kind of slippery. She doesn't
She
seem like
didn't
she.
go ahead.
Mhm. She doesn't seem like she's that much worse than any other angsty teenager. You
Yeah.
know, like she doesn't have anything that bad going on for her in her life. It's only the exposure to her mom and her mom's circle of friends.
Yeah, she is not Sid from Toy Story, or was like
Yes.
caught when she was younger, like killing an animal or
And
or pulling bugs
but
apart,
but
right? Like,
but she's had that turn since the events of season 2. There's the bit at the beginning of the season where girls at her high school were making fun of her with the urban legend that your mom ate people out in the woods to survive. So Callie door dashes just a bunch of raw animal parts from a butcher and dumps them all over those girls' lunch table
right?
and
Yeah,
films it and then shows it to Shauna, and Shauna's like, "Rad,
I approve. Yeah,
good
like,
job."
yeah, which I thought like it was so weird the way she was acting when she got the stuff. I was like, this is just
Mhm.
weird. I don't know what's happening here. But then yeah, when you find out what she did, I was like, okay, that's actually kind of funny. I kind of agree
Mhm.
with Shauna. I wouldn't be mad. I mean, I
Right.
would,
It's
but like,
what
right, you know what I mean?
it's creative payback. She's really applying herself.
Yeah,
So
yeah, indeed.
the question I have is we have Callie with this dark influence and pedigree of Shauna. And Lottie phrases it in a way that, like, you're the culmination of everything that happened in the woods. You were our
Mm.
baby.
Yeah.
Like,
Almost
even
the
if she's not,
replacement of Shauna's
yes,
original baby. Yeah.
right. She's not biologically related to any of the other girls, but like spiritually, there's some of them and some of the woods in her. But then we have Jeff. And Jeff has always been a fan favorite. Jeff has been dishonest, but he seemingly always has good intentions. He wants
Hmm.
to protect his family, keep them safe, take care of them. The question I'm left with at the end of this season is there any power to Jeff's goodness? Like, is there something that can combat this darkness that seeped out from the woods
Mm.
through Shauna
It's
and
a
through the
good
other
question.
girls that is now in Callie, what is there an opposing force to that? There's dark magic in the show. Is there any benevolent magic? And can the benevolent magic just be a dorky dad?
I, honestly, maybe. Because I feel like where this season kind of leaves off with Jeff and Callie is they've kind of separated themselves from Shauna,
Mhm.
right? They kind of excuse me. They've kind of recognized that Shauna has a really really dark side, and
Mm.
we know she hid some stuff in the past, but maybe she's still hiding stuff, or it is a lot worse than she let on, right? Um, and I think Misty kind of pushed Callie in the right direction of like, you need to go
Mhm.
talk to your dad.
Mm.
I think like she might not know it, but I think that was a good move. And when Callie went and did that, I think it shows. I think there's going to be a difference between these girls who had a traumatic experience
Mm.
and bottled it up and didn't say anything, right?
Yes.
Versus someone who had a traumatic experience and then had someone there to support them and talk with them about it and get it out in the open, even if they can't relate or understand exactly. Just being able to talk and share that burden, right, can help.
Mhm.
um
Yes.
and that has also made that camaraderie between the soccer team, right? Like we mentioned, Ty and Shauna, right, have that like that understood, like we can share this bond
Mm.
together, but their bond is also in keeping the secret and not talking
Yes.
about it. And I think if Jeff can kind of influence Callie as well as Shauna and more people to be open about what happened, I think that will ultimately be a good thing.
Mhm.
Because that's I think what I walked away from season two thinking about is like I feel like at the end of the day, this show is going to be about this group of women dealing with their trauma, and how do
Mm.
they learn to properly cope and properly express it and get
Mm.
it out in the open and come to terms with it. And that's something they
Yeah.
haven't done yet.
They they've lied about everything that happened out in the woods. When season 1 started, and you start off with, yes, they are eating people to survive. And you cut to the little bits that you know about what they said when they got out of the woods. And it's like, we starved, we struggled, we hunted, we foraged, we survived. They never, there's the urban legend, there's the urban legend, but just well, Occam's razor says you ate people to survive. And I was like, if that's such a given, and there are real world stories about that happening,
Mhm.
and it's understandable given the circumstances. These girls were out in the woods for 19 months,
Yeah.
the wilderness of northern Canada. The fact that they never said anything and tried to see what would happen if people would understand them. We've come to see how many different kinds of dark secrets they are holding,
Yeah.
that I understand why you didn't say, yes, and part of our journey was that these outsiders found us and they could have rescued us, but instead we murdered two of them and turned the third one into a murderer also.
Yeah.
But the fact that they have not let the world know a single layer of their burden, they've not said anything. There's not one thing that they are taking off their shoulders to say, we had somebody who died and they wanted us to use their body the way we could, and so we had to eat this person to survive, and we tried to honor them, and they're not saying anything.
Mhm.
You're right. It is 100% bottled up.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I think by the inclusion of Callie's other high school classmates, like then starting to resurface that rumor of like, oh, I think they ate people to survive out there, right? Like and with the way adult Shauna has been acting, right? everything is going wrong and coming loose, and things are just
Yeah.
getting more and more like, can we hold this together?
Yeah,
Um,
and if you didn't lie about this, if that had been something you had confessed to, just the general concept of the cannibalism, if it was out there in the open and you had like an empathetic story attached to it, if it
yeah,
didn't have to be the secret whisper thing, you wouldn't be under so much pressure. Like these girls wouldn't be teasing Callie the way they're teasing her.
yeah. I feel like the show is gonna end in kind of one of either two ways, and I'm not a writer, so I wouldn't know how to make either of these super interesting. But I think you get one where the remainder of the group, the women, do finally come out and talk about this, and it becomes this big public thing, and who know, they'll get mixed reactions, I'm sure. Or it all goes really wrong for them even still, and maybe someone like Walter puts it out there and breaks the story instead. Who knows if he'll survive, or if someone like Callie is the one that breaks this story somehow, right? And I could see that ending with them being even more marred than
Right. And
if
we
they
dug our
had.
own graves here.
Right, yeah, just like we
Mm,
couldn't hold it together, and then everything spilled out, and so now we look
mm,
like worse than it could have been if we had just
mm.
opened up, even if it's late, right? If they had just opened up and talked a bit about it, there could be some kind of discussion, or like, you guys can meet us a quarter of the way there, I don't know. um
Let's
but
now that you've
that's what it
mentioned him,
feels like. It feels like one of those two
I
directions.
we'll talk again at the end of our episode about
Sure.
where we think things are going. Now that you've brought him up, let's talk about Walter. After the death of Nat, she's literally wearing her leather jacket like
I'm gonna go
like-
impersonate her and see how she
right, like
lived and drink whiskey and be one of the
right. It's like Hank
boys.
it's Hank Venture after Brock leaves the family.
Yeah.
Uh she's trying to be this tougher girl that she's never been before. Uh, and she is keeping Walter out, even though Walter means well and makes the very good point of, Misty, you keep saying these women are your friends. I don't
They don't
think they
act like
like
it.
you. I don't think
Yeah.
they respect you. I don't think you should be around them. She clings to the other yellow jackets and completely cuts him out. And he's trying to get on her good side again by showing, I know you. I know you love to play detective. I'm going to be like the Moriarty to your Sherlock. I think
Yeah.
that's what you want. That's like a challenge that's going to be healthy for you and it can get us closer together.
And it just
And
doesn't work.
I do love when him and Shauna are teamed up for an episode and we get an over the garden wall reunion.
Amazing. Yeah, it was so good. Just to like see Misty in there was like, okay, this is like something Misty would do. And then you hear Walter's voice like, oh, is this painting by so and so? And you're just like, of course Walter's here too, like already here before her. And then like Misty walks in the room to see him, and then Shauna walks around the corner too, and she's
Right.
there. And I was like, what is happening? This is
And
ridiculous.
I love that Shauna is so mad that she has to be there. She's utterly checked out. She is not trying at all. My
Oh, it's
favorite
great.
thing about adult Shauna is just how she gives nothing any effort. She's just like,
Yeah.
oh, why? What do I have to do? Oh,
So we have to act like we work on their internet service?
oh.
Yeah.
She's got a little bit of this Napoleon Dynamite wine to her.
Yeah.
My lips hurt real bad.
Your lips are real bad.
Uh, but then the penultimate episode, this is something that did not come back in like the previously on Yellowjackets for the season finale. And it's halfway through the season finale that I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't this one thing happen last time where Misty and Walter are talking at his beautiful mansion he has with his money, and he like puts some sort of a drug in her drink, but she doesn't drink it? Not like, oh, I see your trick, I'm not going to drink it. Just like she like gets up and leaves, something happens and she doesn't pick up the drink. And we don't know what that was, what he was trying to do. Like, are you trying to knock her out, or is this some sort of a truth
Truth
serum?
serum, yeah.
Or is this a placebo? And this is just part of your game to play detective with her. Like, give her something that she can sniff out and be like, hold on a minute. This drink tastes like Niacane powder. And I know that because I've studied and I'm on the detective forums. We don't know what that was.
There's a few threads that they've seemingly kind of dropped, or like smaller mysteries, right? That they've just kind of dropped. Like whatever happened with what's her name? Crystal, right? That was her name. With her body just disappearing.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna get to that. That is one of the strongest mysteries of the series. Not the whole season, the series, the entirety of it. And for a while, I was thinking, there's nobody who you can show me being the Antler Queen that's going to shock me except Crystal.
Yeah.
Partway through this season, the 90s timeline is so limited, and there's these two identities we've been searching for of who is Pit Girl and who is the Antler Queen. And after a while, I'm like, how much does it matter? Like, if it's Maury or if it's Jen who's Pit Girl, what are the consequences there? Like, whether it's one or the other of them, it's not a major twist either way. And I'm like, it could only be so many people. Like,
yeah,
there's I don't know if I would have been shocked if anybody would have pulled off the netting and they were the Antler Queen. I guess if you told me episode 1, season 1, that's Shauna under there, I would have been surprised. But if you talk to me at season 3, episode 1, you're like, Maury is Pit Girl and Shauna is the Antler Queen. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Not Moriarty, not Maury, Marty. But
several.
Yeah, I still don't know exactly what is up with Walter, and he is also the kind of character that very much could be playing a much longer game than he's letting on. Because I think he has this certain wit and charm about him that is both like boyish and like cute and charming, but also creepily sinister at times.
Yeah.
But also, and he switches back and forth so easily there.
He's no creepier than Misty is. Like, right? He's only creepy because he's Misty's opposite half, you know?
Yeah. But like, in the way that Callie is very bluntly and obviously being like, let's play truth or dare. What really happened in the woods back there? You're right. I think he's doing the same thing, but at a much slower pace, much more calculated. Like, I can't just come out and ask them, but I need to be around them, influence them in a certain way. He's not necessarily manipulative per se, but right, he is playing that longer game. And I think he wants to break the story. If anything else, right? Just be like, I solved the mystery.
Right. He loves to play detective. Like, we've seen when we first meet him and he talks about how he has all of this money. And when Misty asks him what he does, he's like, oh, a piece of scaffolding fell off a building and hit me on the head, and I won millions in an insurance settlement. And that sounds like a lie, but then you go to his home, you're like, that's a really expensive home. Everything he told Misty, like, oh, you like Broadway? I also like Broadway.
It makes sense.
We see him at his home alone, outside of any influence, not trying to affect her in any way, and he is who he told her he is. So there is
Or at least the
something.
story fits, right?
Yes, yes, there is something sincere to Walter. I think everything he has told us is true, but you don't know what they're going to do with the things that have just never been brought up. When he was first introduced, you theorized, what if this is somebody tangentially connected to the Yellowjackets who wants payback on them, who we've just never been introduced before? We're like, what if this is like the kid brother of one of the kids who was out there in the woods with them? What if this is the son of the plane pilot? Like
Yeah.
somebody who was left behind, who was never part of the story, but knew something was going on and these girls knew something. And he's just coming out of the woodwork and never telling you exactly what his origin story is.
Still could
And
be
that
the,
still could
the
be true.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a mystery too. I don't know where he's gonna go, what's gonna happen with him, but yeah,
One
he's a
more.
fun character.
I do really like every time he shows up. He adds a unique energy to the show that's so like grungy and moody and dour. Just to have cheerful old Walter showing up really really perks you up. It's good. One more mystery from the modern timeline. When Ty and Van are watching old VHS tapes and they see a commercial for like an ice cream parlor that has
And
the no-eyed man in
no-eyed
it,
man, yeah.
and they go to the ice cream parlor and it's empty, it's abandoned, and Ty thought she was going to find something there. She's like, "I don't even know what I thought I was going to find, but we're here and now I guess I haven't found it." We don't pick back up on that again. It is part of the larger mystery of how much of what these girls believe happened to them out there was actually supernatural and how much was in their minds. And the journeys into the cave with Akila's visions are like
Mhm.
a bigger representation of that this season. And I guess this is just a smaller one. I don't know.
So I was trying to look up some breakdown videos. Again, there's not
Mm,
really much out there on YouTube. And I did see one that was like, oh, this is a commercial from Ty's childhood.
mm,
That's why she recognizes this like
yeah.
no-eyed guy. And I was like, I don't really know if that's true per se. I don't know if that guy was in the commercial originally or if this is a vision that they are having, right? Like even as an
Her
audience
and Van
member,
both see it.
right? But I wouldn't put it past them having some kind of shared hallucination, right?
Mhm.
With the stuff that
I
happens
fully
in
do.
this show, right? Yeah, like there's that's not within that's not without the realm of possibility or
Mhm.
outside. What's the way to
Yeah.
say that? Outside, yeah.
I'll
Um,
I'll
but I
tell you the
didn't.
one. Mhm.
Just to finish my thought, I didn't think the ice cream store was really all that important, other than like it was a clue that got them to a location where they thought they saw
Yeah.
this sign about they saw the fox eating the rabbit, and then Fantastic Mr. Fox just like raises his hand in the back there, like wolf, right? No, but yeah, it is a sign to them of like the wilderness
Yeah.
wants more.
Mhm.
I didn't really feel the need to look into it kind of beyond that.
It's it's something that in the episode it's introduced feels like a major puzzle piece, and then they just
Mm,
never talk about it again, and you're like, "Okay, well, I guess that's just an illustrative point,
right,
a
yeah.
means to an end and not an end in itself." I'll tell you the one thing I keep coming back to
Okay.
that really makes me think maybe there is a lot of what these girls are experiencing in the woods that's in their head, but I don't know if it's 100%. And that's when Laura Lee tries to escape in the plane. And
Yeah.
we see her up there in the plane. She's alone. She's not around anybody else. She's the first person to die after the crash. it's pretty early in their time there. Not
Yeah.
that they haven't already been traumatized, but I don't know if they've yet been traumatized to the point of madness. And she's got her little teddy bear in the seat next to her, and she looks over and at her teddy bear. I don't remember his name, Mr. Fluffles or whatever. She's like, Mr. Fluffles, we're doing it. We're really going to get out of here. And her teddy bear just spontaneously combusts, and then the whole plane goes up in flames.
Yeah.
That one, it's not impossible, but that stretches credulity maybe a little bit too much for me. Like, I think that was a true supernatural effect of whatever this place is. I don't know if everything has been, but it's that more than anything else.
I
That feels the most supernatural to me.
Yes, I think that is an interesting thought, an interesting good interpretation of that. I think the only other thing that could maybe knock it down a peg but still be real is that it's less so supernatural and more so metaphorical, right? I don't
Mm,
think her teddy really spontaneously combusted, but to her in the moment, maybe this is what her mind went to when it really just was the engine exploded, right?
mm,
um I can see that being more of a metaphorical thing, like right there in the last instance of your life, right? You get this picture
mhm,
of your teddy bear on fire, and that's what sticks in your
mm.
mind here. But
I
we have no way to prove that, right? Like there is
right, and
no,
it's
yeah, there's
maybe that
no
is what
evidence.
maybe
I
that's
don't
the
know.
point of it. It's supposed to be something that you can never prove because she's dead. Whereas
Yeah.
the other characters who continue to live might think back on something and realize, "Oh, there's no way I saw what I thought I saw. That must have been in my head." Laura Lee can never do that.
Yeah, because I think the younger girls out in the wilderness have a tendency, especially as they get more and more into their cult like behavior,
Mm,
to kind of jump to conclusions or make up a fanciful story in their head, like the mystery of the fire, the cabin burning
mm.
down. We don't get a definitive answer as to
No.
who burned it down or what happened. We do get a vision at the end of episode 3 in which
Mm,
Van enters through the like cabinet, like the back door cabinet of the cabin, sits down in that chair and is staring at the fire. Now, in the like 2 or 3 little short breakdown videos that did happen, they made an interesting point that in Akila's vision and Shauna's portion of that vision, they are like with or around things that they are familiar with and want. Akila is
mm,
around animals and she loves to take care of the animals, right? It is familiar to her.
mhm.
She loves that. Shauna is relaxing and in the sun, but there is this child that is calling her mom,
True.
right? And then for Van, that doesn't necessarily seem to be true.
We
She's in the cabin. That might be shelter and safety, is one way to
yeah.
interpret that. But she's staring at the fire. It's not like, oh, I'm back at the cabin. I'm so happy to be here at the
That's
cabin.
that's true, and we know her tie to the fire. When the plane first crashes, it is on fire and she's stuck in there and she almost doesn't get out.
Yeah.
So she is burned from day 1.
Yeah.
And like then they think the wolf has killed her and they try and cremate her. There's that too. A couple
Right. She
episodes into
has
season 1.
some kind of
So
connection to fire.
but you
But
do make a good point that she does not want that. Maybe
she might be
it's an
fascinated, like a moth to a
yeah, but
flame,
it's not a
literally, right?
desire. Yeah, it does reflect how adult Van feels about, "I'm alive. What am I alive for? What did I survive for? What was the point of my existence here? My role isn't clear to me."
Yeah.
And after she dies, it's still not clear. Young Van appears to her in this death vision, and there is an indication that like Van has served some larger purpose, but maybe she doesn't know, and we don't know yet. Um, but maybe young Van's fascination with the fire is a preamble, a foreshadowing to adult Van, who's like, "Why aren't I dead? Shouldn't I be dead?"
Yeah, or she might be the thing that lights a fire, so to speak, under
Mhm,
the other women to get them to confess. Who
mhm.
knows? But I mentioned the stuff about the
I
vision, not to necessarily say I think Van was the one that burned the cabin,
I
because I don't. But also in that vision, there it like a spark is on the rug next to her. We don't see the spark
mhm,
come out of the fire, but the rug just
mhm,
kind of starts to burn, and then that's
mhm.
what lights the cabin. So it could literally just be that no one actually did it.
Yes.
It just kind of happened by accident. um which is also mirrors like Van's like lack of like solid purpose or
Yeah.
definitive, like here's a solid answer. She's just like, what?
Mm.
I thought I was supposed to be more. I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to do this. And younger
Right, and,
Van is
like
just like, you served your purpose.
right, and it's like, why did I survive everything I survived to then just get cancer, and then my cancer goes into remission, but then I die of it anyway? What kind of narrative arc is that? Van is the storyteller, and I do like the dramatic irony of the storyteller has the least sensical and, satisfying arc of anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is also maybe a cautionary tale for different ways trauma will affect you as you get older, and ways it can like negatively affect you, right? Like we have Nat, where it drives her to addiction, right? We
Mm,
have Shauna, who's just kind of cold and uncaring, right? Not really connecting. Like she's not empathetic is maybe the right
mhm,
way to
mhm,
put that, right? There's a disconnect there. There's Misty, who's maybe like kind of thrives on it, which is really strange and
mhm,
concerning in its own way,
mhm.
right? Like they each have their own thing, and Van even has this like, well, I seem to kind of come out okay despite it, and something else took me out. That took me out. Like she's
Mhm.
just kind of confused by it almost.
Yeah.
Um, even Ty has this like separation of identities, right? It's just different ways that trauma can
Mhm.
negatively affect you. I think,
Mhm.
and it does not turn out good for all of them, right?
No. Right. Let's really focus in on the 90s. Let's talk about a
Cool.
character who hasn't come up yet in our discussion. Coach. The end of
Coach.
Coach.
Coach leaves at the end of season 2 because he sees them eating Javi. They're all
Mhm.
chowing down, and he is just disgusted. And he like is like, I gotta get out of here because I'm next.
Mhm.
Like I'm the lame duck here. Um, and at the start of season 3, yeah, they don't know where he is. They aren't sure if he's alive, if he's dead, if he's made it out of the woods, if he's nearby. Um, and it turns out that he is still in the area. He has been hiding in a cave. He's set a few traps. It seems that Nat kind of knows that he's out there.
Yes.
She's seen some of his traps or something like that. I don't
Mhm.
remember if that's exactly it. Um, but Mari ends up falling into a pit early on in the season, which
Yep.
is one of Coach's traps. And Coach saves her and nurses her back to health. She has a gnarly
I
like leg sprain, and her knee is dislocated.
yeah,
Uh,
he does not want her because I think she tells him, "You set the fire to the cabin. You tried to kill all of us. I'm going to go back to camp and I'm going to tell everybody you're
yeah,
still alive and where you are." And he's like, "No, don't do that." And he just doesn't know what to do. She's lying there hurt and he's like, "I will just take you with me. I'll sort of soft kidnap you until you can walk again and I decide what it is I'm going to do with you.
Yeah,
Because he's never been a violent person the way the other people have become violent, even violent out of necessity. Even characters who I would not describe as violent, like Travis,
sure.
still
Yeah,
like have to take part in the hunt, have to eat people. Coach never has. He's tried to just abstain and keep his hands as clean as he can. So he doesn't try to hurt Maury. He just sort of like gags her and is like,
Mari.
I
Yeah,
can I Maury, can I just put you on hold? Can I just put a pause on Maury? And they have this another thing is that he has discovered this cache of food and supplies, a very Dharma thing.
yeah.
One of the biggest lost nods we've had in a while. And we find out later that that is food planted by the previous scientific research trip. Um, but we still don't know very much about that. And Mari, not the guy who was on daytime TV telling you if you were the father or not. Mari sees this cave shelter. Mari sees those supplies. She never got to bring that up to anybody, did she?
No, she not really. She did have hot chocolate when she was with him.
She
I don't
she
think she
did, but
mentioned the supplies.
yeah, when she goes back to camp, she isn't like, "I had hot chocolate. Ha ha ha."
I
Or,
mean,
"Guys, come here.
she
Come see what
she
I found."
might eventually mention it, but it's not on screen, right?
They
Um,
would have told us. We would have seen somebody reacting to that. But Mari and Coach have this really interesting discussion where I forget which one of them brings it up that there's a definite sense of unreality to what's happening. And
yes.
Mari tells the story about having a little cousin, a little toddler cousin who had like terminal cancer, was dying in the hospital, and she's there at her little cousin's bedside where while like their parents are like down in the cafeteria getting something to eat. And she's watching Eureka's Castle with her cousin. And then like the machines start beeping and like her cousin's heart rate drops and there's all this, the nurses rush in, there's all this hubbub, she's shoved out of the room. She's like, I went and I sat in the waiting room and the same TV show was on there too. And then my parents came in and told me that my cousin had died. And but what she says about in in both of these places, the same TV show was playing. Like there's some sort of universal constancy happening, whether you're in a good situation or a bad situation. And what she says to Coach is,
Yeah.
I think there are two versions of reality, but one is hiding, which does speak to and is a very interesting way to phrase what we have seen happening, particularly in season 2, with Coach believing he's seeing these visions of being back at home with his boyfriend. And it's like, what if I never got on the plane? But it's this sort of, it's not a complete idealistic fantasy. It's not pure escapism. Because it's not like, what if this was all avoided altogether? It's like, what if I didn't get on the plane, but then I'm there with my boyfriend at home and I see on the news that the plane crashed anyway?
Yeah.
It's not what if there was no plane crash, it's just what if I wasn't on it? And then Shauna has the vision of her baby surviving,
Yeah.
which again, they're still in this terrible situation. It's not like she's back at home sleeping with Jeff and maybe never pregnant at all. It's like just a slightly better version of what's happening. And I
Yeah.
like how they said maybe I like how Maury phrased it. There's two versions of reality. One is hiding.
Yeah, and
What did you think about this?
that's an interesting point. We did not get those glitch transitions that we got in season 2 when Coach was having his vision as it's
Yes.
switching between them. Um, so yeah, I to be clear, I don't think this is like there's a multiverse out there and there's multiple versions, right? But it is this. I think like what we've discussed previously of they're just keeping what really happened
Mm,
hidden. Like that's what's hiding.
that's true. Yes,
Um,
yes. It can be purely metaphorical, purely in their heads. Uh, but there is an ambiguity. This and I don't think it's a multiverse thing. It might be just like a duoverse. Purely two. Two and two alone. And whatever is going on in this place, in this patch of Canadian wilderness, maybe it is a thin spot or an overlap or a patch in the universe.
Here's
Because it's
something to
not
complicate that.
just to say, it's not something that anybody seems to experience in the current timeline. This seems to belong only to the woods.
Yeah, here's something to add to that and complicate it. When at least in season 1 and 2, the whole kind of
Mm,
pitch of this story is that these older women are lying about what happened.
mm,
Like that's the end of it. Like they just don't want to talk about it, or they lie and say like, "Oh, we survived on squirrels," right?
mm, mm.
Whereas here in season 3, they slowly start to introduce this concept, especially in that one scene you mentioned where it seems like Ty is almost talking to herself.
Yes.
She mentions this idea of, "I'm starting to remember what happened then," which is
Yes.
different than just
Yes.
lying about it. That's, oh, you don't remember what happened. And I can understand like there's some traumatic stuff that you have
Yeah.
blacked out,
Mm.
right? That could certainly be the case. But that's not
Or it's
really
sh
what they told us in season 1 and 2.
right. In season 1 and 2, it seemed like we're lying about everything we went through, and how Ty presents it in this season is almost more like, not gaps in memory, but like, I remember everything just at a lower saturation and opacity. My
Sure.
memories are
We
kinda
know we did
smeared
bad
and
things.
blurred,
We know we ate
but n
people. I know I have an evil
yes,
side, but I don't
right.
remember the
But
exact details.
now I remember it in, like, full vivid color. I remember the emotion I was feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that could certainly be the case. But
mm,
I think that's an interesting like extra detail that could kind of be that like duo of realities thing
mm,
here of like
mm.
we have the younger timeline and we have the older timeline. What if these really are two different timelines?
That's
Because
something
right,
to consider. Right, because
yeah,
there's all of this missing time in
in
between.
between, yeah.
Yes, I think the latest flashback we see is when Lottie is undergoing shock treatment after they've been rescued, which is maybe just like a couple months after rescue. She's still
Hmm.
teenage Lottie. There is this big gap in between where we haven't, there's a straight 20 years where we haven't seen anybody. And I'm curious if what could be hiding back there, if anything's hiding back there. It could just be we have the teenagers in the woods and the adult actresses, and maybe we don't want to stretch credulity about making having this midpoint flashback and trying to age down the adults or trying to age up the teens or cast a third person. Maybe just from a production standpoint, that's a little messy. And that's why we've only ever had these two time periods. Maybe it is all about the woods and all about this snapping point in their adult lives. That is something I'm very curious about, this
Yeah.
time in between. We just learned that apparently Melissa died a couple years after they got back, or so they thought. And, like,
Hmm.
that's, like, the most we've ever gotten out of the middle time period, and I
Yeah.
don't know, if there's more to be found there or not. Um,
And having those kind of dual timelines would be a way for them to do both of the options that I said earlier of how to
mm,
end this thing. We do
mm,
get a timeline where they lied about it, and here's the older versions of them. And because they bottled everything up, it went bad, right? Like that could be a very negative timeline. But if we then see them actually get rescued and a month or two or however long after, we see the teenage versions of themselves get together and come out and talk about it at the end
Mm.
of like, here's what really happened. We could then see like, oh, and then here's what the older women did in that version and how it
Mm.
went well for them. And that might be a kind of very lost like way to end the
Mhm.
show, right, where the other timeline was a flash sideways the entire time, right? But could be a way for them to show like, hey, trauma can have some very negative effects. Please
Mhm.
don't do
Mm.
this. Here's what you need to do. Right.
There's a Goofus timeline and a Gallant timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
I One thing I've always struggled about with Yellowjackets is the past timeline has always been much more compelling to me than the modern timeline. I'm compelled I really like all the performances we get out of the adult cast. There's interesting stuff there. We all love Jeff. I am intrigued
Yeah,
by this period of not quite missing time, but withheld time. The fact that these characters know things and they're just not telling us, like, us,
yeah,
the audience is in the dark, and we're like,
it's
"What happened in
intriguing.
between?" Going from the past to the future and trying to fill in this middle section is a a form of mystery I find really enthralling. And I chalked it up in season 1 to maybe being a COVID production and having a smaller budget. Things like how Thaisa was running for senator, but always just seemed to be at home with her wife and son. I'm like, don't you have somewhere to be?
Right,
And
yeah.
how when she won the election, she like ran off with Van. And then there has been very little consequence of fallout of like, I don't know, I just
Right.
abdicated. I just don't do it anymore, and I just, I wish I could see my wife and son, but I guess not. There's, like, no fallout, there's no consequences. There's always been something kind of flimsy to the current timeline, and some things are sort of over the top and ridiculous in a way that I think serves the show, like how Callie can just DoorDash raw organ meat to school.
Yeah.
Like, there's some things that lean into how ridiculous the show can be, but there's other things that just don't click. Like, there's something missing. In this season, when Shauna is convinced somebody's trying to kill her,
Uh-huh.
she takes her family, she takes Jeff and Callie, and they're gonna hide out in a motel for a couple days. And we see their motel room, and it is clearly like an old, worn down, cheap motel room. But then we see them go to the lobby, and the lobby belongs to a much nicer hotel. And I'm like, those cannot be the same building. What is going on here? Like,
Right.
I don't think that is not ridiculous in the same way other things are. There's something that just feels like
Huh, that's an
cheap or
interesting
careless or
detail. Yeah.
kind of missing. And again, I've always chalked it up to you're doing what you can with the budget and the resources you have, and that's okay. Or you just decide, yeah, we're going to gravitate away from this and go towards that. Or is it really important whatever happened to Van's video store? But the idea of fantasizing about a better life, but only a slightly better life, does maybe give some sort of purpose and narrative intentionality to these weird flimsy bits in
Yeah.
the current timeline. Like maybe the equivalent of my baby survives even though we're still stuck out here in the wilderness. Maybe the modern day equivalent of that is somebody's trying to kill me and I have to run away with my family to a motel. But the motel's got a really nice restaurant there.
Yeah, nice bar. Business
Right.
happens at the bar.
Another thing that could have sworn was really going to come back this season
Uh-huh.
when Ty and Van are living it up. Again, Ty just has no job. just like forsake her position as senator, just doesn't do anything day to day now but hang out with Van, and she still has all of this money from somewhere. Her income is like not a problem.
Yeah.
Uh Something that could be a plot point or could not be a plot point. When they're hanging out in that hotel, she's like, I'm going to take you to the city. We're going to go to the Four Seasons or whatever. We're really going to live it up if you are dying, or just because you and I are together again for the first time in 20 years and we're making up for lost time in that regard. And they're talking about something, they're talking about like the waiter who died at the restaurant or
Hmm.
some other crime as room service is coming into their room. There's like two hotel employees with a cart with food on it while they're just talking about a murder. I'm like, hold on. Do you forget? Do you not see that those people are there? They can hear you. I'm like, surely that's got to be something. You talked. You were after all these years being so secretive. Now you were just you let your guard down. You were so careless, and just a hotel waiter is going to
And Ty
blab to the
gets
press that you
arrested for murder.
right, and that was never anything. What? Like, why was that
Interesting.
scene staged in that way? A couple
Yeah.
times there have been scenes that were staged like this is a major clue or a big twist or this is going to come back, and it just hasn't. There's this weird there is something weird to the reality of the modern day timeline where things happen and there are no consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weird, interesting details in there for sure. Um, can we go back real quick to Coach
Oh my
again?
god,
Because
you're right. We did not talk about Coach enough.
he gets put on trial eventually. Mari tries to flirt with him to let her escape and all that stuff, and that doesn't work. He eventually cuts her free. She kind of leads the whole group back to the cave to get him and stuff like that. That's where they discover the gas that gives them the visions
Right, yes.
and stuff like that. But yeah, they put Coach on trial for like, we think you burned the cabin, but we need to give you like a fair trial. So we'll have Misty defend you because
Mm,
she thought you were her boyfriend.
right. She gives you the best chance of redemption. We all know Misty loves you, and she
Yeah,
would do anything for you. So let's see if she can make a case. We're gonna give you the best
yeah.
chance possible.
Nat is still in charge at the time, so she
Mhm,
becomes the judge.
mhm,
Ty becomes the prosecutor.
mhm,
And yeah, they call witnesses. They do all sorts of stuff. They yell out objection and
mhm.
stuff
They
like
wear kilts.
that. Yeah. Um, yeah, they do all that. I was hoping I could hit the little button with the objection. There we go.
Wow. We never use that. I forget that still
I
works.
still have all of them. Yeah. But yeah, I really liked the trial. I thought that was a fantastic thing because it was not
Yeah.
something I expected from the show, especially in that
Mhm,
part of the timeline,
mhm,
in the woods there. And I think the trial went pretty well. It has its
mhm,
ups and downs, backs and forths. It really seemed like Coach connected with them by his like impassioned speech there, and it's not until like Shauna's stubbornness and Melissa still egging her on to be like, no,
mhm,
hold your ground, right? Like you can
mhm.
do this, you can assert yourself. Uh, that they just keep having this vote over and over until they get 2/3, and it's gruesome because they're having to vote literally with Coach just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought this was going to be a much more secretive kind of thing, and we would be dealing with this the rest of the season as people are trying to figure out which way did you vote. Like, can we get you on our side over here, right? Um, but no, they just brute force it right there, and they decide that they want to kill Coach. Um, which
But
does not
then,
happen right away. Yeah, Akila's
right, then
visions.
Akila comes in and she has the vision of, I love the imagery of this. For a show that does have this sort of pseudo supernatural mystery to it, we don't often get like weird visuals. So I love that Akila's vision is Coach leading them out literally by being a bridge, by being a giant Gulliver's Travels man, just stretching from one end of a ravine to the other, and they walk across Coach's back.
Yeah,
And she's like, I think this means something. I think he's our key to getting home. I don't know how, but I think he is.
yeah.
And so they give Coach a stay of execution, and Coach is like, just let me
Just end
die.
it. Yeah,
Right. He's in a similar position to Van, where he's like, I lost my leg. You know, I have no peers here. I'm the only adult. I'm useless. I can
you've
do
now
nothing
slashed
for
my
you.
Achilles tendon on my one good
That
foot.
too. Yeah, yeah. He's like, I am going nowhere. He's like, I have no future. I have no identity. There is the tragedy of him being a gay man, and there's no other adult men. They're adults, like I said. He's just vestigial. He's this vestigial man hobbling around. And he's like, saw it in your eyes that you wanted to kill me, and now you're going to give me this like pity life, but like to what end? What do you mean? How do I save you? What's the plan? He's so frustrated, and then we learn that he's just been starving himself. Like Misty will
Yeah,
come and bring him food, Nat will bring him food, and he just like throws it behind a log and doesn't eat.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the fact that it's not, they don't murder him. It's not his injuries that get to him. It's the fact that he chooses to die. This long, slow, terrible, but like stubborn and purposeful death. He's like, I am done being subject to your whims and to the whims of nature and fate. He's like, I am taking hold of this. I would like to die now, please. I'm done. I'm
yeah,
done.
yeah,
Uh
yeah.
that's
Wild
what a
stuff
way for that
happened with
character to
him.
go out. Like for a character who has been kind of on the fringes because he is such an outsider. And there was so much that physically he can do, or that in terms of the hierarchy of the group that he can do. Uh, I liked Coach. I would have taken more of Coach to see what they could have done with him.
Hmm.
I was always curious, and this is something we have not seen disproven yet. Like when they get rescued or get out or however, did they leave somebody behind, either on
Right? Yeah.
accident or on purpose? Did they like, is Coach
Is that why we still
still
haven't
out there?
seen
Right, is
Akiva?
their old
Right?
man Coach. Yeah, yeah, I still think they might do that with somebody, but, to let Coach end his story on his own terms with, like, such a powerhouse exit, where, like, Nat goes in and kills him, and he's like, "Yes, please kill me. I would love that. Thank you, Nat. Thank you. Just go ahead and stab me right here in the heart.
Yeah,
Thanks."
yeah,
What an ending. I did really like that.
yeah. Wild stuff. So that's Coach. Do we want to jump over
And
to the
then,
scientists or more
yes,
of
because
the visions?
there's the feast of Coach where they have his head on a platter, and that's what I was talking about with, this is what the show has finally done that I've been waiting for them to do the whole time.
Hmm.
Like at some point, an outsider must find them pre-rescue. Like if they wound up here, has anybody else wound up here? Whether it's another person who is lost, or maybe somebody else who had a hunting cabin. Maybe whoever owned that cabin like comes back.
Yeah.
Another mystery we can talk about if we want, the cabin and the hunter. But I'm like, finally, here we go. And they just walk right up to the girls and scream because
What the
there's a
fuck?
head on a pike and everybody's covered in blood.
Well, so
What
let's
what a great ending.
back up one or two steps, right? When they are starting to have this summer solstice feast where they eat Coach, they start screaming, and then the woods start screaming. That's something else they
Oh
do
yeah.
in
Yes.
this season a lot. They focus on like the trees moaning and creaking and screaming back at them, and not something we like truly got in season 1 and 2. We got it a little bit, but they really focused on it this season so that we could get the reveal of a tree frog, like this kind of frog that's out there. It's mating season. Yeah. And there's 2 scientists and a wilderness guide out there just recording some frog porn, right?
Yeah.
And that is the sound we are hearing of this like screaming. It's a terrifying sound, and it's so funny when the scientists are like, isn't that just the most beautiful sound you've ever heard?
And that they've
Nature.
spent like
Wow.
they've spent years of their lives like trying to track down this frog, this rare banshee frog. And they're
Yeah.
like, we never thought we'd get to hear this. Like, we're in such a remote area. Like, they had to hire their wilderness guide,
Joel McHale.
which
He
Joel
was the
McHale,
one
who
that I like. I had heard that he was cast and then forgot,
yes,
and then remembered
what
like, oh
I
yeah,
had,
he's in this.
I had remembered that, and we had talked about what do you think they're going to do with him? And I'm like, he wears glasses well. Maybe he could be like
He could be
playing
the
Misty's
the
dad in a
hunter.
flashback or something, the glasses dad to the
Oh yeah,
glasses
yeah, yeah.
daughter. No, nobody was thinking, oh, he's a mountain man. Mountain man Joel McHale.
Because that's what we all think of when we think of Joel
Right.
McHale,
I
Mountain
like how
Man.
he's really cast against type, but like
He
absolutely lives up
he's
to it. He's great in this.
he's had some surprising roles as an actor that I
Yes.
am, because I was not really expecting him to in the Bear, right? I think he plays that role incredibly. This like really just almost like mean spirited chef. Um, and
This vision of death practically. He's practically the Grim Reaper in that show.
almost, yeah. But then to like see his comedy chops, I mean, obviously he has his old comedy shows, but then to see him in like Community and just like the stupid stuff that he got up to in Community, and then to see him as this, yeah, like macho man, mountaineer guy, wilderness, I can tough it out here in the wood, and he's not bad. Like he's surprisingly good in this like one episode that or like 2 episodes that he's in.
Yeah.
Something
He's
like
not
that.
in it much, but they do get a very fun punch out of it being Joel McHale.
And that might be the thing that's happening here is like for the small amount of time he can do that role. If he had been in this longer, maybe the role wouldn't fit exactly. But because it's this one little like short snapshot, right? I think he kind of fits, and I think he did a good job. But yeah, so he's the like wilderness guide for these 2 scientists. They're kind of not really trusting of him. Is he a murderer? There's a weird name on his jacket that's not his name. Did he murder someone to get the jacket? No, he bought it at the thrift store.
Right, and we may never know which of those 2 things it is. Another
It's
case
not important. Yeah.
it's ambiguity, it's dividing, it's branching timelines. You can choose to believe this or that.
Yeah.
And depending on which you believe, then the rest of the story is very different. So the 2 scientists are a couple, and I think the man is more sincerely paranoid about Joel McHale, and the girl is
yes.
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're married or whatever.
He sees her kind of making eyes at him when he like takes his shirt off that one time, and so he like is jealous, and I think that's what's like, what do we really know about this guy, huh?
Yeah. And she's maybe more like joking, like, what's this guy's deal? Where did he come from?
Who cares?
But there's a night where it storms and they're like trapped in their tent, and Joel McHale has brought some weed. So they smoke the weed, and then she's getting kind of loosey goosey, touchy feely. and then they start having they're going to do like a prank call on the satellite phone. They're going to do a crank yanker from
Yeah.
out there in the wilderness.
You have 8-pound balls, right? Like, what
So
kind
this
of
is the
underwear do you
Canadian
buy?
Royal Mounted Police.
Right? Yeah.
And then he's like, I think the guy is like, no, don't touch that. That's a way out. Something bad happens.
Yeah, we have
And
enough
in the
for like
scuffle,
2 calls.
right? In the classic, we're fighting over this thing, and by fighting, we break it. We physically break it. They like snap the antenna off of the satellite phone briefcase.
Yeah.
So there is almost a way out. And yeah, they hear these noises, they hear this like screaming and chanting, and they're like, who else is here? Who could that be? And warily they approach the camp, and that's when they see all the girls and Travis screaming, covered in blood, and Coach's disembodied head. And then immediately, they murder that guy.
Yeah. It's Lottie that comes up behind him, and she kills the scientist. Yeah.
Right, just like whacks a whole axe in his head. And she's like, they're not supposed to be here. This is wrong. And the others are like, what are you doing? These are the first new faces we've seen in a year and a half.
Yeah, things start to go real bad for the girls here, because it feels like this is where things get momentum. Yeah, there is this palpable feeling of, we could get rescued. We could be out of here. And I think because it's happening so fast, yeah, you almost forget like, oh, there's probably going to be another season or 2 of this, meaning they don't get rescued here, if you think about it, right?
Right. Yeah, because we know they are here for 19 months. The initial plane crash, they're talking about prom before the plane crash, but not really talking about summer quite yet. So it seems like it's maybe April, March or April, like mid to late spring. They're there for 19 months, and we know they're there across 2 winters.
Yeah, they've already had one, and the second one is coming, and we got it at the end here. So they're close. They're getting close, but there's still like, no, you're gonna be here for like 6 more months after this, or like 4 more months after this. So yeah, that's kind of wild to think about. But everything is just happening so fast, right? And then they hold the other 2 hostage. And as the other scientist, as the woman, is just kind of both scared and oddly like scientifically fascinated by like what has happened here. She kind of is like, all right, I want in. Like, I don't know what and it does feel like both, right? She is genuinely curious, but also scared that she will say anything to like make sure she survives. And like it to like prove it, she immediately kills Kodiak is his name, is Joel McHale's character, and just like stabs him in the eye with something there, and it's just like, oh my gosh, basically, like no one asked you to do this. Like, what is happening?
But like, she's doing it to prove her loyalty to Shauna, who she can tell is the queen of this hierarchy and means business. When they're all going to leave, and then Shauna's like, no, we're not leaving. We're not walking out of here. We're not getting rescued. Yeah. And her and Lottie and Ty are like, we just have a bad feeling about this. And Nat is like, what do you mean? How can you have a bad feeling about this? How is going with them worse than staying here when we have another winter on the way? And they're like, I don't know. Just a gut feeling. We can't do that. And Shauna like imposes this law, like, everybody back to your tents. There's a curfew. Nobody goes around alone. We're not going. Just tie them up and like put them in the animal pen until we figure out what to do with them.
Yeah. This is some wild stuff that's happening, but this introduces a few more of like the things I was thinking about during the show. We have in the older timeline, we have Callie who's struggling to kind of connect with her mom of like, does she really love me? Is she
Mm.
hiding this stuff from me for a reason? And then in the younger timeline, we get confirmation that the woman scientist is pregnant. And
No, that
immediately,
no, she had a baby as a teenager, gave the baby up for adoption,
right,
and seemingly always, if not regretted that, wanted a connection with her baby and, like, wanted the baby to know, "I love you. I did what I thought was best. I hope I would do something that you would make you proud of me. I'm so sorry I might die out here in the woods. I'm talking into my tape recorder that was recording horny frog noises as my final message to you, my
yeah,
daughter." And then that's this mystery tape that they find where
correct, yes,
you hear everybody. You they were recording as they were walking up towards the camp. So you hear the other scientists get killed. You hear the girls like chasing them away into the night.
saying each other's
And then
names, yeah.
right, and this woman being terrified for her life.
Yeah, yeah. It was not clear to me exactly, like, when we see her recording that message to her child. I was under the impression of like, oh, she's pregnant. She's recording this message in hopes that the girls take this out. Which, thinking back on it, makes no sense.
Mm,
Of like, and then they can give that to her daughter. But of course, if she doesn't survive, then how could the daughter be
mhm.
born? But yeah, then I don't like, in the midst of all of that, I was like, is Callie Shauna's? Like, have we gotten confirmation of that? Like, is this the
Uh,
woman's daughter? And of course, that is proven to not be true.
right, the
Um,
timeline makes no sense.
yeah, well, like, yeah, there's all of that stuff, and then Melissa is the one that marries the scientist's daughter, and stuff. So we see her for like a brief second. But still, yeah, it like I was trying to contain myself of like, how does this all fit? What is happening? But yeah, it's just the tape, and the tape is like, it proves what they did out there. Not only were they in the midst of like
Yes.
cannibalistic ritual, but they murdered someone on tape.
And attempted to murder even further. And the
Yeah.
tragedy of this is, I had always imagined there must be some point where the Yellowjackets come across another lost soul trying to survive out there in the woods just like them, and they turn that person into somebody else to hunt.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting we found somebody else and we made them one of us. We
Mm,
made them a murderer just like we were.
yeah. Which we've only seen a brief clip of the girls arriving from the plane. Um,
Yes,
and
arriving to the plane. I think what we see is the girls are being
getting
held
off the
in a ranger
plane with,
station,
yeah, with like their hoods
and
on so they don't get pictures and stuff
right,
like that.
and I think that scene is like they're like leaving from the ranger station, getting onto like a plane that's gonna fly
Right.
them back to New Jersey, and like I think it's filmed very ambiguously, and the only character you see is Lottie, maybe Misty.
You see
Um,
Misty, but my point is that there's no mention of Hannah, the scientist who also survived. We do
yes,
know that
yes.
like there's an obituary out there, so I don't know if that means like they just explained it away as like, oh, they crashed and died in the wilderness in some kind of
Mhm,
accident, and
mhm.
that's it, or did she make it out and died shortly after, like had some injury that she quote unquote died of, or I did not get to like zoom in on the obituary and see if there were any details in that, but at least like
I
verbally they haven't really confirmed yet what has happened to her. I assume she
uh
dies out there in the
yeah, oh
wilderness,
oh
but
yeah.
um
There is a line during the road trip where Shauna is on the mission. She thinks it is Hannah's daughter that has been trying to kill her. It's like her and the other adult Yellowjackets are in the van trying to go to her house. And somebody mentions about how Hannah got close to Jen and Melissa before she died. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe she told one of them about her daughter, which we learn later must be true. She told Melissa, Melissa went and found her. And like Shauna did give this like weird look. And I wasn't sure how to read that. It might just be Shauna reacting to, oh, I haven't heard
Melissa's
Melissa's name
name.
in years.
Right.
This really means something to me. Like, do you know something? Because I think they also mention definitely that they're like, well, I think she told Melissa, but Melissa's dead. And they might also mention that Jen is dead for sure.
I don't think they said whether or
Okay.
not.
Okay.
There's not many girls that can live or die left. We have
Right.
Akila, Jen, and then maybe someone in the background that I don't really know of right yet exactly.
Yeah, and I keep waiting. Pull out the adult Aquila. I like Aquila very much.
Yeah. And that could be the thing too of like this show can still flip the script on us and be like, yeah, Hannah stayed. We told you she died, but she didn't exactly. Akila stayed, Jen stayed, right? There still might be a small group out there. Um,
Yes, and I do wonder if it's we still these are the things we don't know. We don't know how the girls get out, if they are rescued or if they escape, and
it seems to
why it
be the sat phone, but
well,
we're still not sure.
that's what the final minutes of this finale lead us to believe that Nat takes the sat phone. They're able to combine the one that Joel McHale had with the remnants Misty had of the black box that she broke. So
Yeah.
finally, there is another character who knows she kind of doomed them all. It's Nat. She tells Nat, and Nat is like furious, but then is
Oh,
like,
that scene was heartbreaking.
yes, yes. Is furious, but is then like, what does it matter now? What am I going to do? We just have to think about what we do from this point forward. So we
Yeah.
don't know yet if anybody else learns what Misty did, but they're able to take those parts during this final hunt, like when everybody's running around and it's the snow has fallen, it's fully winter, everybody's bundled up for winter, but then also has like their hunting furs and their weird cult masks on. And somebody dresses up like Nat so that Nat can escape. And then suddenly you see her at the top of this mountain. Like, where is that mountain? Where is it in relation to you? How long did it take for you to get up
I
there?
mean, we've
Have we
seen
been
them up in the mountains before in season 2.
Yes, they are up there, like, hunting and looking for Javi, but that's not a space we've returned to or mentioned since then, uh, and it's not anything that the characters would have known to comment on when they were up there, like, "Geez, if our phone worked, we could get a signal up here, huh?" So, she's there on the mountain suddenly at the end of the season finale, it is like, "Whoa, hold on." There's a lot of pieces missing here. But
Yeah.
she gets on the sat phone. Somebody hears her. Somebody on the other side line confirms, "Yes, I hear you."
Yeah. And we
Uh,
don't know because so this whole
mm,
moment is also from what I understand very similar to how the Brazilian soccer team in real life
they
got
what happened with
rescued.
them, Uruguayan, I think, they
Yes,
crash at
thank
the
you.
top of the Andes, and eventually 2 of them walk down. It takes
Yeah.
them, like, 4 days to walk down through the mountains, to find a river, to walk around along the banks to find a town. So it is sort
Yeah.
of the
Well, so
reverse of this.
from what I understand, yeah, they came to a river that was wide enough that they couldn't cross because they were so weak, but they could see some other people. And so they started like
Oh, that's
shouting
right.
over
Yes,
this
yes.
river. And those people then had to leave and go get help and then come back and save those people, take them back, and then go back for everyone else. And so that could even be something that happens here. right? Where like maybe Nat is the person that gets saved first and then leads them back to where everyone gets rescued. Or she just like the battery runs out and so she goes back down to camp and they can't like they restart the search, but they know it's like okay, the signal came from somewhere in this area, right? And so they start like a grid search or something
Yeah.
like that, and it takes
Uh,
them a couple months. um
so even if it is, we learn that it is rescue as opposed to escape. Uh, there is the question of, was anybody, like, maybe there was a storm coming and it's like we only have one chance to get in and out of here, and like just by timing and by mistake somebody gets left behind. Maybe somebody
yeah,
chooses to stay behind, or maybe somebody is like, we ostracize you, we punish you,
yeah,
we we stick you here, you don't come back with us.
yeah. Who knows? Because there is a lot of that flip flopping back and forth of I believe in the wilderness. No, I don't. It's real.
Yeah.
It's fake. I want to stay. I
Yeah,
want to
I
go. Right.
yes.
Um, so yeah, that could be the like the wilderness believes you should stay, so you stay, even though you don't believe in it, or you stay because you don't believe in it until you do, right? Then you stay here, or the
Ugh.
opposite of like, hey, we don't believe in the wilderness, so we're gonna go. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, who knows exactly?
This is the excitement of the show is, we know some people got out, but who and how and and all the other associated mysteries. And
Yeah,
then what?
yeah. It's good stuff with all of that. I'm trying to think. Do you have any like funny moments that you wanted to mention, or stuff that you like? I just really liked this one bit or this one scene. Um,
Ah,
for
uh,
me,
mhm.
I have one I can share. When adult Shauna and Misty are in the car and the brakes go out and they're on this like rampage of like how do we stop this car, and Jeff's like Limp Biscuit is playing on full blast as they're screaming and driving the car.
Yes.
The whole scene is just chaos, right? And I was just like, oh, this is amazing, I love this. Like this is so
Mhm.
dumb.
It's fun.
Yeah, I loved stuff like that. I loved just the like weird little moments of of Ty seeing the no-eyed man as they're
Mhm.
out making out in the alleyway, and there's the waiter that dies, and then she goes back to the restaurant to try and pay from them dining and dashing. Like she probably could have just gotten away with it because they had something else to deal with. Um, but also, we don't know. Like, she ran for office in that town. Like, everyone kind of
Right.
knows her, right? Like, what is happening here that they don't recognize her? Really, they do
Again,
recognize her, but still, like,
again, something where I'm like, is the show choosing to gloss over these details because it just isn't what it wants to focus on?
I think
It's not
so. Yeah,
the it's not important to the themes or the character arcs. Again, but there's something weird to how many little bits and pieces are missing in the modern timeline. It
I
does give me pause.
I love the little detail that Jeff calls weed chronic. And they're like, no one calls it that anymore. You need to stop. He's like, okay, stop calling it chronic. He's like makes a mental note to himself, and then he walks in on Callie like rolling a blunt, and he like you can tell he wants to like can I have some. But then he
I'm
also
a
has the like, hey, you need to grind those up a little more. Like he actually does
mm,
have some
yeah,
knowledge, and she's just like,
weed experience.
all right, Dad, thanks, I guess.
I do like that the dasher who brought Callie a bunch of raw organ meat was like Jeff's friend from high school, who is the one that Shauna told Jackie got her pregnant. Like, oh yeah, I did sleep with
Yeah.
Doug. And Jackie's like, I thought
Yeah.
you hated Doug. And she's like,
Wait, was
well,
that him? Because wasn't that the guy who
I
was
thought,
at the volunteer center that Misty works at? The one that let Shauna out of the
I don't think
freezer?
so. I don't
I
think so.
thought that was him.
I think maybe guys have similar build, but I thought it was like, oh, this is your dad's lame friend. And he drives up on the scooter and he's like, hey, Callie, weird order, but okay. Tell your dad I say hi.
Yeah. I either way, still, yeah, the like recognition between Callie and the driver, that whole situation is just weird.
Mhm, mhm.
um let's see what else. The Joels, like the fact that
Yeah.
they're like, I don't, for some reason, they stick out as like, put a pin in this. There might be something here with them that
I
happened, but I don't
it's
think
an
there is at the same time,
it's
right? You know
another
what I
thing
mean?
that like stretches your belief. Like they are trying to do this like upscale hipster boutique hotel and Jeff just owns your solid suburban family furniture store.
Yeah.
I'm like, does he have why are they interviewing with him? Is he really gonna be able to get what they want? There is a weird mishmash there. And maybe that's part of it, that Jeff,
Yeah.
like, won't give up on believing, "I can give you what you want. I can do this. Put me in, coach. I can give you the hipster furniture you want."
Yeah.
Um, mm,
I love the scene where Walter is trying to follow Shauna, but he's just like tailgating her, like it's just right on her bumper the
mm,
entire time, and she can't see because the windows are tinted, but like can still is like, who is this asshole following me? Like, what the hell? And yeah, she like short stops and he like smashes in the back of her. That whole situation is just weird. Um,
mhm.
the whole situation then of Walter sending the limo to deliver Lottie's trash to Misty in the middle of the city. It's just weird.
Mhm.
It's just bizarre. Like, I don't like what? Why didn't you send like a bike messenger? You already had a guy who delivered one bag of weird things, right? Like, use him again. He just works for
Just a Walter
Postmates
flex.
or something like that. Yeah. I like that the driver of that limo like was also just exasperated of like, he does stuff like this all the time, right? um, their weird trip to see that talking llama, like what a weird decision. Man, that was strange. I did like to see the inclusion of Jackie being back in a
Yes,
number of scenes.
which is something I've thought about, that Jackie has never left her spot in the opening credits.
Yeah.
Other things have changed. There's a few pieces that remain the same, and she is one of them. Maybe because that shot of her is just so cool, or to represent that she's still around as this effect on Shauna, this thing Shauna is always trying to live up to.
Yeah.
I and I think like that actress has gone on to,
Oh yeah.
fall out and yeah, like they want to keep her around.
Yes. Yeah.
She's good to work with, sure.
Ella
But
Purnell.
I do wonder if there is something to the continued hallucination and appearance of Jackie.
Yeah. To me, to get back to their trauma, yeah, that is Shauna's like when she opens up about Jackie. I think that's gonna be like the thing that really helps her heal if and when she does that, right? Like it's
Mhm.
I think with the group she would be able to be like, yeah, we turned into cannibals and stuff like that. But I think to really admit to
Yeah,
what happened with
j
Jackie is gonna be
right.
extra hard for
And
her.
it goes back to before the plane crash where it's just Jackie, I thought Jackie was my best friend, but she put me down and I never got over that. And that made me act out and do terrible things. And if I
Yeah,
would have just stood up to Jackie in our rooms in suburban New Jersey, none of this would have happened.
Yeah. But despite all of that, she still like seems to really love her and
Mhm.
like her in right.
Mhm.
There is this just like I can really just see a cathartic moment happening with that of finally admitting what happened and opening up about that, and Shauna just breaking dead down and crying, um,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Uh, any other kind of things that you want to mention? You think that we skipped?
Mm. There's another good Lost reference where when Callie and Lottie are hanging out in their kitchen, they put on "Make Your Own Kind of Music."
That was a
Uh,
good one. That was a good one. Um,
where do you think we're going? So, I rescue seems possible by the end of season 4, and Uh, let's let's talk a little bit more about the pit girl scene. So we see
yes.
that Ty and Van are trying to game the system, trying to like mark the cards so that Hannah is the one who is chosen because Ty's like, she's an outsider. We don't
Mhm.
know if we can completely trust her. I'd feel more comfortable with her gone. And then Shauna can tell something's going wrong. Somebody's up to something. So she like keeps hopping around the circle they're all in. She's
She
like,
only
I'll just
hops once. She just is like,
that's
I'm just
yeah,
gonna go next. Um,
right, and, like, if the cards choose me, the cards choose me, and because she throws it off, the cards choose Mari, and
yeah,
Mari dies. She's the pit girl from the beginning of the show, but there are differences, like
yeah.
and not just we're filming with the actual actresses now and not body doubles. Like, in the original pilot opening, there's all those scary eyes, like, carved on the trees, which we have not really seen up until
We
this point, and
we
they
did
do
see
sort of, like
one this season, but still,
not
yeah,
to the
you're
degree
right.
that it appears in the first episode. They do this glitch effect. The glitch effect that they did when, like, Coach was having visions of being at home with his boyfriend in season 2 to merge this current what we have seen is the ultimate pit girl scenario with what was in the original first episode.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's a way of kind of uniting these two sets of footage and confirming to the audience, yes, this is what we've been leading up to.
Yeah, I mean the
Uh,
episode's name is Full Circle, so
yes. But the fact that it uses the same visual language that these mysterious other scenes have used is curious to me, and I don't know if that's something that's going to wind up having any meaning or if it was just kind of a cheeky way to stitch these two things together. Like, you know that when we originally filmed this, we had to use body doubles. Some parts of the show weren't totally fleshed out yet. Maybe there were
right,
some
yeah,
things we thought we were going to build up to, like the eyes in the trees, that we never really did. And we're going to use the static to kind of stick these two things together to give a playful air of, consistency that maybe isn't exactly here on its own. But when after the hunt, when Mari is killed and Ty and Van are reunited because 'cause they've gotten, like, separated, they're in different hunting parties, and the way Van screams, it was Mari with this, like, terror, and of course, we know we wanted it to be Hannah, we were planning it to be Hannah. Not that Van was really on that side, that was Ty's idea, and Van's like, "I guess I don't know if I'm totally with you, I don't feel comfortable killing this stranger, but I guess you have a point about how she's an outsider, we
hmm
protect our own first." She Nobody particularly likes Mari, like, Van has no connection to her, but the way that she screams, "It was Mari," does make me think about what Mari said about there's 2 realities and one is hiding, where Van is almost saying, like, "This is not what is supposed to happen." Not just, "This is against this
mm,
plan we made," but, like, something wrong has happened here.
yeah.
I know we're on the bad timeline now.
Yeah, I can see something like that of well, because they know that Mari got picked. Like that is the thing. So like in that moment, I read that as a like, how could we let this happen? It was Mari. Like we liked her. She was one of us, even if she's not anyone in particular's like best friend, right? She was still much more liked and a part of the team
Yeah.
than say Misty,
Yeah.
right? Or Travis, right?
I do like that Travis is just sort of checked out for this whole
He's
season.
so done. He's just flip flopping back and forth to
Right.
say whatever he can.
He's just high in a hammock. I am curious what will become of Travis, especially since it is his death that kicks off the beginning of the show altogether.
Yeah.
How much further they can take that character.
Yeah, I like the fact that him and Aquila have kind of been getting closer. Especially in the scenes where he is like, no, all of this is made up. It's stupid. It's dumb. And you see Aquila being like, no, it's not. And like, then when the other people show up, like he suddenly switches sides and Aquila still has his back and didn't mention like, no, you just said it, like you don't believe in this, like I know you, this is what you just said, right? Like she, in the same way that Mari didn't mention the like cache of food, Aquila's kind of covering for Travis, but then Aquila also has her like moments of disbelief and doubt, and Travis has her back then too. So they have this kind of camaraderie that I like.
Yes.
But to get back to Nat, or it was Nat or Van that was screaming out. It was
Van.
Mari. Van. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an interesting thought, but that is I think maybe for Van in particular, the moment maybe where she kind of is like, okay, I'm done with this stuff. Like this is not like a fun thing in the woods now. Like it actually truly killed one of our best friends, and we kind of did it on purpose. Like we manipulated things so that a certain outcome would happen, and it screwed up, right? Like this is not supposed to happen. So yeah, I can certainly see something like that. I'm waiting for, and if I don't get a like explicit moment, I'm excited to look back on this show and try to figure out where is the moment that Nat broke, like younger, like what led her to addiction. And that might just be answered in season 1 on a rewatch if they go into some detail on like when she started. But that's something I'm kind of constantly looking for, because Nat early on in the 90s timeline, the younger timeline, she's kind of a badass. She's the one who can shoot. She's like was the Queen of Hearts for a little while, or was the Antler Queen for a little bit there. And I don't know if it's the fact that the trial did all that stuff, the fact that these scientists like got murdered right in front of them when rescue is right there, or the fact that she found Misty with the black box and she's just like, what the fuck, we could have gotten out of here this whole time. Yeah, like I'm looking for that, like what broke Nat specifically. And that I think this moment may be Van's breaking point, so to speak.
When we see Van taking pills, I don't know if it's so much a substance abuse problem in the way that Nat had, as much as it is, I am terminally sick and I am covering for like actual physical
imagine
pain.
It's the cancer. Yeah.
But with Nat, what if she gets badly injured trying to get everyone to safety, and it's not a like an emotional thing that drives her
Or
to
psychological,
substances.
it's a physical thing.
It's like I really got fucked up making sure we got out of there, and now I'm stuck with a a Vicodin dependency or something. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
One thing I am still waiting on is the kids have very little curiosity about where they are. There's the part at the beginning of season 2 where when Nat and Travis go out hunting slash looking for Javi, they're also kind of mapping the area around them. And they bring those notes back to Coach, and Coach is trying to make a map. And of course, then the map burns up, but nobody seems to miss it. They don't have real curiosity about where they are. Nobody's trying to learn anything
Yeah.
about their surroundings. And we have no idea in the current timeline what became of that place, if anything. Like, did they learn anything of significance about where they were? Did they learn about why the plane crashed? Did they learn about what was up with that cabin? Why could nobody find them? Why was it so desolate up there? Is this just happenstance? Is it just fate? Is there anything to it? Has anybody ever gone back there? That's what I wonder could be the final thing, is we have to go back there
You have to go
physically.
back.
We have to go back.
I don't know. Yeah, like I did see one theory that I think has been kind of bubbling as the show has progressed. That is the mining theory in
Yes.
Yellowjackets, right? That they are basically on top of this like this old illegal mining facility or mine shaft or whatnot. And that's maybe what that symbol points to, the circle and the triangle and the little hook, specifically because that hook looks like the alchemical symbol for
Yep. You and I
what's
watched
it
the
called?
same video. Yeah.
Yeah,
Silver?
there's some.
I don't know.
No, it's not silver. It was something, not Cinnabon,
Cinnabar.
Cinnabar. Thank you. Yes, Pokemon Cinnabar Island. Uh, yeah, like it almost like this. The alchemic symbol for Cinnabar almost looks like that, as well as crystal. Looks like has a very similar shape, and Cinnabar can come in a crystal form. It is when you try to process it, one of its byproducts is that it's heavy in mercury, which could drive people mad, right? Which could add for the craziness of what's happening out there. I don't put much stock in that stuff, but there is some interesting stuff of like, oh, there is this like quote unquote super mine area in like Canada right over Montana, which would be very close to like Seattle, that was their trajectory, and they had to like go out of their way. That makes sense that they might be over like sure, some of that stuff kind of fits. I don't think that's really going to factor in or anything like that. But
that feels like it's neither mundane enough or fantastical enough. It's not quite either.
I feel like it's just one of those mysteries that's going to be in the background. You can choose to believe it or not. And I think you said something else earlier, and you used that same wording. You can choose to believe it or not. And that might be the like dual reality thing that we're getting at here, right? It might not be actually two separate timelines. We might not know exactly where they are or what happened or why the plane crashed exactly. But there might be a lot of it left to just like you can choose to believe it or not, right?
You and I, who are hungry for information, have wondered, are we going to see an additional timeline? Are we going to see the rescue mission where we're going to be cutting between the adult women, the teenage Yellowjackets, and whoever found that they were there and went and got them?
Yeah.
Or are we ever going to see a flashback episode this is what the area was before they crashed there?
Yeah.
Are we ever going to learn about that hunter or anything? Like I have been curious Are they the only people this has ever happened to? Is there and I don't know if it adds or detracts from the story. I think there's potency to both. Like we are just one more disaster in this cursed piece of land and we'll never know what the deal is,
Hmm.
or it was only ever us. We are these we just got the worst stroke of luck in history, and then all of that happened to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we may never know. I think they almost could have done something with Kodiak being the hunter or somehow
Yeah.
like that wrapping around. I mean, I guess we saw him get stabbed and then he dropped, right? And then where did they go after that? Did we see the body? Like that's
I don't think we saw a body. I was curious about, like, so have you eaten I guess let's presume you were done eating, Coach. You had finished dinner by the time the scientists found you. Have you now eaten the other scientists? Have you now eaten Kodiak? Like, you don't have a fridge. How long can you store all of these
that
dead
meat.
people for
Yeah.
later consumption?
Yeah. I don't know, but then also like when we do see the hunter in that weird vision in season one,
Mm,
he's stepping out of that like pantry area, which is the
yeah.
same area that Van stepped out of in her vision in this dream. So is he in the caves? Is that how he got out there?
I
Right? Like
I
I
I really wonder if we're ever going to get into the caves. If anybody is ever going to use the caves as shelter, and I can't there is a definite production reason for this. Like having filming in caves means you would have to build caves as opposed to just filming in naturally existing woods. It's probably it might be a higher production cost. It won't look as cinematic. You
yeah.
can't do as much with blocking. Everybody's all up in each other's business as opposed to these characters are over here, these characters are over here when they're on like a much bigger plot of land and they can spread out and they can have secrets and have secret meetings. So, production-wise, I can understand why they might not move into those caves that are, like, thermally heated with hot springs, but I need a good, like, narrative reason in the show why they don't, and I guess, like, the only people who knew about them for sure were, like, Coach and Mari, who are both dead. Javi, maybe. But I don't think we ever clearly got that out of him while he was still alive.
Well,
I think that was
Lottie
something that
knows,
us the
Aquila knows, Travis knows now. The whole group has been to the caves to
oh,
like
but I don't know if they know for sure, like, how habitable those caves are. I don't think they're
right.
ever gonna go back there, right, or if
I
there's
I
some sort of, like
I think they will continue to go back there. Aquila seems to want to continue to go back there.
mm,
Also, how real is that door that's in the back there? Right? Like there was a door in the back of the caves that was like this old wooden door, but
right.
also does that lead into the cabin somehow? Does that lead into that weird like underground shelter looking hallway that Lottie has her vision in season one going up those stairs, and then the way she dies, those stairs look
Yeah,
exactly the same,
yeah.
right? Like is yeah, there's all kinds of connections to some like underground something happening here. So I don't know. I don't know if they had the vision in the cabin in season one because the gas from the caves somehow is connected to the cabin. And maybe that was like a vision of Kodiak in the back there. I don't know. It's weird. There's so much happening.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna get
yeah,
answers on.
and I'm still trying to determine what answers I want. Like, if it is completely grounded, absolutely realistic, everything was in these girls' heads, would I be satisfied? And if there is some more supernatural reason, would I be satisfied with that either? I'm not sure what I want.
Yeah, I really think that there's some details that are gonna be that will come down to you can believe it or not. Like we're not gonna
Mm,
tell you either way what exact, or we will say one thing, but you might have a real strong feeling that that's not exactly what happened, right? Um, and yeah, I don't think we'll get an answer on all of these things here. We may never find out what happened to Crystal.
That's the one that I feel like they might be most likely to pull back out, just because that is such a soapy, fun twist,
Mm-hmm.
to have the person who you forgot was only ambiguously dead. That seems more likely to be answered than other things to me.
Yeah, and like or that the question is like, I mean, she did fall off that cliff. Like she did get pushed off that. I think she's dead. But then who collected her body is
Yeah, where
the
did she
question.
go?
Because
Yes.
Misty left and came back and she was gone. But it right, like it was just like, what happened?
Mhm.
No answer. No, like, oh hey, I found Crystal's body at the bottom of the thing. I guess she just
Yeah.
slipped and we buried her. Oh well. Like there was no answer on that. Um, I don't know. I have no idea. We'll see. We'll see. So, as of right now, there has not been confirmation of season 4 yet.
Mm.
So I don't know when that might be happening or anything like that. Hopefully, I mean it's only been just over a week since the finale, so I think it's still
Yeah.
fairly early. And we know that this series has a kind of a slower release schedule. I know they've had to deal with COVID and the strike and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what
Mm.
happens. So I'm excited. I hope we get a season 4. I would be a-okay if season 4 is the final one. I think they have enough
Yeah.
space to kind of do what they need to do to wrap it up. If we get 2 more, I'd also be okay with that. But I think any more than that would be too much, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think
Yeah.
6
I
seasons would almost be too long.
Yeah, I can definitely see this wrapping up in 4, but I am very curious what they might have hidden up their sleeves for a 5th season.
Yeah.
Maybe season 4 ends with rescue and season 5 is flashing back to the years after they came home and
Yeah.
something that might be buried back there.
Yeah, we get to see the younger girls in the like kind of modern setting would be interesting. They discover
Mhm.
LimeWire and
Right. Yeah, we get some
Napster.
1015 style like nostalgia to the year 2000. Um, there is something Melissa says, adult Melissa, which is, "After we got out, I was no longer one of you,
Mm,
and you, talking to Shauna, scared the shit out of me." I think when she says she's like, "I was no longer one of you," she means the collective whole, and it's looking at the variety of people who got out. What is it that separates her from all of the rest of them? That she wouldn't feel any sense of any camaraderie with any of them.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm
and
wondering if it like there is a bit of, do we continue our newfound religion in some way, shape, or form together, and them deciding yes or no, because at the end there when Melissa stabs Van and she is like we said, like real quick to just jump back in, that might have been the thing. She may have wanted to continue this religion somehow, and everyone else was like, nah, we need to get back to like in sync and boy bands and stuff like that. uh and she's just like, what the hell, right? Like, I'm now no longer one of you. You're you've left this religion behind. It could be the exact opposite, right? Or it
mm,
could just be that she wanted to talk about what happened, or I don't know. But yeah, that is an interesting point.
mm.
I is no longer one of you. Interesting. um yeah, I don't know. I really want to start to see this wrap up? How do they come up with the story, with the lie? What is the lie that they tell? I think that was a really great moment in Lost when that happens, and we get to see like, hey, we need to like get our stories straight here, and for them to do all of that stuff. I want to see more of that. I want to see what happened with Crystal's body. I want to get an answer on that symbol. Does any one of them find out what it means? Because even in the 90s timeline right now, they see the symbol, they've seen it, but they haven't co-opted it yet. Whereas in this future timeline, anything that has to do with them is still marked by that symbol. Yeah. Right? So I like, that would be interesting. Like, when do they truly start to notice that symbol? Do they use it? Or is it just like a secret detail of like, it's not really part of our religion, but we all remember it and we know it as like an identifying sign.
Yeah, I think when they first go to the cabin, I think maybe somebody remarks on it like, oh, look at this weird symbol. I wonder what this means. But there's no, these kids never investigate anything.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, they're only in high school, so they can only investigate so much with either like not having the knowledge or the expertise to do anything, really.
Get it from. I want to see young Misty start to become the detective adult Misty is. I want to see Misty solve something.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm excited for season 4 if and when that happens, but I think that's kind of about it right now. So
that's plenty.
We shall see. Let's wrap things up right there. Thank you all for checking this out and listening. If you like what we do here, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us. That would help us out a great deal. But Melissa, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
Email me. Just like it's the year 1997, and maybe we are or are not lost in the woods. Email me at yourhostmelissa@gmail.com.
There you go. If you guys want to stay up to date with me, I am at YoKyleSpringer. And if you'd like to stay up to date with everything we do here at The Whatnauts, we are at thewhatnauts.com on Blue Sky. We are also on Threads, so please go like, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal with that. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out more of our videos right over there. That would help us out as well. And yeah, this has been number 144 of the Whatnauts Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.